If you are a filmmaker or photographer, this is a piece of equipment you have to have. My name's Brendan, and today we're going to be talking about variable ND filters or neutral density filters. What are they? Essentially, a neutral density filter is like sunglasses for your camera lens. It's going to reduce the amount of light coming in. Why is that important? Because if you're trying to get a certain look, let's say you want a really shallow depth of field in an image, you need to be able to open up that aperture all the way. And if you're shooting outside or just in a bright condition, you may end up with a significantly overexposed image. And you don't really want to adjust things like your shutter speed or your ISO or your aperture, but we have to reduce the amount of light coming into the camera. That's where the VND filter comes in. It is extremely important if you are in the business of filmmaking or photography, especially if you are going to be shooting outside. The filter that I use is the McKinnon Variable ND Mist Edition 2. This is one of the pricier filters out there, but I have found when it comes to filmmaking equipment, you really do get what you pay for. There are some cheaper filters that do work, but I find that the pricier filters, some of the ones that are just better quality filters, you end up with a much better image overall. Some of the issues you can run into with some of those cheaper ND filters, like the Tiffin ND, which I started with, is vignetting. I ended up getting vignetting in the corners or an X shape across the image at certain strengths with that ND. Typically with ND filters, when you increase the strength, you increase the chance or the severity of any vignetting. Let me give you an example of trying to achieve a specific look where I need my camera settings to be where they're at, and I don't really want to change anything, so I need to reduce the amount of light coming into the camera. This shot right here in this room right now, it is daytime. I've got a couple windows in front of me. I've got lights in the back, and then I've got my key light right here with a hair light behind me as well. It's very bright in this room. I want to keep my aperture as wide open as possible at 2.8. I'm set in my ISO, and I am also set in my shutter speed so that everything looks good in the image. But in order to get that depth of field, I have to have that aperture wide open. If I don't have that aperture wide open, I'm going to end up with a much deeper depth of field and not as much separation in the background. So I've got an ND filter on the camera right now. Let me go ahead and take that off, and you can see what the image looks like without it. So this is the image now without my matte box on it that has the built-in ND filter. And as you can see, it is going to darken the image there when I put that in front of the camera without me having to adjust anything. And now we're completely overexposed in this image. So in order to compensate for that, I have to stop down with my aperture in this case. So let's go ahead and do that. So as you can see, now that I've taken off the ND, and I've had to close down my aperture to f8 instead of f2.8. It's much smaller, so I can reduce the amount of light coming in, and now I don't have the depth in the image that I really like to have. So this is why having an ND filter is extremely important. Well, that's pretty much it, you guys, for this video. In my opinion, an ND filter is a must-have for any filmmaker or photographer out there. If you guys have any questions or comments, please let me know down below. I'll see you guys in the next video. God bless.